Welcome to Listen and Learn with Jay and Kay, where we challenge the status quo and add to what we know. I'm Jay.
And I must be Kay. And Jay, last time we were talking about salience. And I would challenge you to think of one single salient activity that doesn't involve someone's hand. Can you think of any? I mean, even if somebody says
Sleeping.
what really is important to me is watching TV, they're gonna hold a remote, right?
For sure.
Or a drink and it just made me think about how important it is to get on with treating the hand. I've heard from people a lot that they've been, from my patients, that they've been told that their arm recovers last. And you and I have talked for years about, well, it's no surprise the arm recovers last because it's the last thing anybody tries to work on.
True. You often can think about how we need to make some changes to our own practice to save the arm from its destiny. You know how my one example was sleeping, maybe we don't use our arms? Well,
Yeah.
now that I reflect on that, that may not be true. We may fold our arms
Right?
across our chest or put them by our head or our
Yeah.
pillow. So you're right. The hand is probably part of every task.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter who your patient. I mean, right now I have really low-level arms and hands. I have kind of in the middle people who are moving some but not doing everything. And I have a couple of people who have really skilled hands, but they still want to work with their hand because to them it doesn't seem the same as it did before. So I guess the first point about this thing of getting to shaping the hands is just that it's appropriate at every level. And I think it's really easy to write off low-level arms. Do you have anybody that you're working with low-level arm?
Yeah, I do. I do actually, and it's interesting you say that. Over my career, there have been lots of conversations about shaping hands or molding hands, and if I reflect on where my journey began, it was this suggestion that most hands need to start by being flat and open
Yeah.
hands,
Oh, yeah. The
and
pancake hand.
right. And
Behold.
then I came to realize and learn that maybe more of an intrinsic plus or a lumbrical grasp is very common in salient and functional tasks. And so I started really focusing on that with a lot of my patients' and clients' hands and thought, well, if something is good, more is better. But I learned a while ago that more is not always better, and I just learned this again with a client in the last, just probably the last week or so. I'll just pull up some pictures.
Oh, good. You took pictures.
I did take pictures. And so, she would always try to have, she had a high tone hand, a hand that's always flexed and tight. And we would try to get it around the walker handle, and the wrist would flex and the fingers would flex,
Oh, yeah.
and
I
she'd
know
be
that one.
falling off.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we got the splint that was more of a lumbrical intrinsic grip where she could grasp over top of the walker, and it covered her fingers so she couldn't roll under. And I thought, this is great. It's going to help with the intrinsic plus hand and different grasps of different objects. And then I started to recognize that I was almost recreating that open flat hand. It was losing that integrity. It wasn't holding the shape, and she couldn't close it anymore. And so the middle picture really shows down below that I took the splint off and her hand was flaccid and not grasping. And not until then I really got it shaped around objects and cylindrical and different types of grasps. Even on the walker again, now challenging her balance, now pushing her to perform different tasks. And lo and behold, when she required that hand to hold on for dear life or, for the function she was completing, then the hand came to life again and we got that muscle action that I was aiming for, and she doesn't need the splint at all. And it really reminded me that you might introduce a tool or a splint at some point, but you can't live there. You can't stay with that. You have to always have a plan to de-adopt and keep working on shaping to demand the needs for that hand.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, you start with shaping it in some way, and then somewhere along the way, it has to convert to action. That it's not just something that's in the hand for shaping purpose or over the mold on the walker for shaping purposes, but it's actually that the hand becomes active. So that's great. Yeah, so I was working this morning, in fact, with a man who has a really high level hand. I think I've mentioned him to you before. I keep inviting him to fire me because honestly, his hand is so good. It's really amazing. But
But not
today, what
perfect.
I chose to do with him is to work on open grasp, something that I call open grasp. And that's more like, this kind of shape, like you would hold. And actually, he's an athlete. So I had him holding balls. Now, the real challenge for him is to hold one of those big gym balls, that's what, 45 or 55 centimeters big. You know what I'm calling a physio ball, I
Like
think
bigger
you
than a
call it in the gym.
basketball. Yeah.
Oh my God, a
Huge.
lot bigger.
Those huge balls.
So it's not heavy, but it's bulky. And if you don't have really good intrinsic action in your hand when it's open, guess what? You can't hold a big ball like that.
Right.
So today I was having him hold the big ball and a medium size weighted ball, and then working with a tennis ball. So 3 different kinds of balls. And in between all the open grasp activities, I had him work on fine motor. And for fine motor, I had him doing things like picking up toothpicks and putting them in a little holder. So he had to pick toothpicks up off the what were we on, the countertop, I guess is where we were, off the countertop, and put them in. So that's a very discrete fine motor thing. He's a card player. I had him turning over cards, so he was having to use this more closed intrinsic grasp alternating with the open grasp. And so that's a really different kind of shaping, but for a high level hand, that's the kind of thing I would choose.
It's interesting because you talked about the intrinsics, and so did I. And I think what's interesting about shaping of hands is, indeed, like feet, hands and feet have intrinsic muscles, but also extrinsics. And it's incredible that as we work on different shapes, we also get the benefit sometimes of additional wrist or ankle control. Extrinsics can sometimes come into play as well. And I can think of a high-level hand that I had, and she was really, one of these multitaskers who's always got a lot of things on the go. And there were so many opportunities even to separate what you were talking about, where I may do a shape where part of my hand is going to have a certain shape and hold an object, and then she, like you said, was then doing some more fine motor with the other part of the hand, maybe holding her an object in her hand. Perhaps you talked of a golfer the last time we talked, might be holding the golf ball in the hand and maybe a tee or the club in the other fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so what about, when I think about middle guys, people sort of they're not high level, they're not really low level. For me, it's all about different kinds of shapes. It's about the variety of shapes, so that you just begin to build more and more muscle action just through the sheer variety of the shaping. So I wouldn't have more of that open to close kind of variation, or maybe not just the kind of progression that you described, but something that just requires a lot of different shaping.
Agreed.
So I guess we're agreeing that there's no wrong time to start shaping the hand. Mold it. It's if we don't mold it, somebody's just gonna have to hold it, I guess.
So don't hold it. Go out there and mold it.
Know when to hold them, know when to mold them. Yeah, and so I think we could. I guess the thought I would like to leave for anyone who's listening is the arm does recover last if you wait until the last thing to help it begin. Even if you think the hand can't hold anything, even if you think the hand can't open for anything, even if you think the hand can't do anything, that's exactly the hand that you want to start shaping.
I guess the reality is, as therapists working with these clients, our job is to give the hand a job.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Great.
Okay,
Well,
so we're going to have an exciting broadcast next time we talk to each other live like this.
that's right. 2 weeks from now, we're going to broadcast on scene in a tropical destination. So hopefully everybody can fit that into their calendars and tune in to see us in an exciting new location.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Kay. We'll see you then.
Bye bye.